Happy to be joined by the champ, Raquel Pennington, who we haven't seen since UFC 297, since she won the belt, and curious to hear what is next for her. Raquel, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Happy to be talking to you. Congrats again. I know we're a couple months overdue, but congrats on the big win at UFC 297, winning the title. That had to have been really sweet with the fact that I know you'd fought for the title before and, you made your way back and you got the title, and it's a really great story in MMA.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a surreal experience. 14 years of hard work, finally coming to, you know, coming in whole with everything, accomplishing the ultimate goal, but the goalpost is constantly moving. So, they're on to the next thing after that. But I think the biggest thing for me is, it was just special. It was the first camp that I've had being a mom and to have my little girl there. And then, of course, my family and all the love and support. But man, after that fight, when we went into the back and they started doing the professional photos and we put Alea down on the ground and she just has a picture with it, I don't even think there was a size out there that I can get large enough to hang in my house. Like, it's my all-time favorite photo.
Yeah, and that's a memory she'll have forever. I mean, that's really what it comes down to for a childhood, is you remember moments like that. So that's cool. You got to win the belt. She got to be there and experience it. Was there ever a point you thought the championship wasn't going to be achievable? I mean, there's injuries, there's all types of stuff that happen in the sport. Did that doubt ever come in, or did you always feel like you'd be holding gold one day?
No, I mean, I'm the type of person, I'm super ambitious, I'm goal oriented, and I find a way to make things happen. Time frames are completely different than what we visualize as people. But, I fought for the world title in 2018 for the first time,
Yeah.
and I knew I still had many years left. So it would eventually circle around again.
Was it satisfying to beat an opponent like Silva, who I know was talking a bit of trash going into the fight, and just to be able to shut her out like that was a really impressive performance?
It's always nice to just, when I first started the sport, 14 years ago? Yeah, 14 years ago.
Mhm.
Fighters didn't talk shit to each other. It was, everybody had respect for each other. We would hype ourselves up in whatever way we needed to. But at the end of the day, the fight spoke for itself. And now in today's day and age, the new fighters coming in, the fans, like, everything has definitely changed. And all these athletes, they decide that talking shit's the way, it's the new entertainment. And for me, I just don't like to waste extra energy. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, the fight's going to speak for itself. So when you go out there and you talk all this shit, you turn around and lose, you're going to be making up for that for forever. And with her just saying all the things, after the fight, she apologized. She was like, I'm just trying to make me and my family some money. I felt like I really needed to hype up the fight. I felt like nobody was going to watch the fight. And it's like, for me, at the end of the day, like, whether you like me or not, like, you're going to be tuning into the card. And so she was just sitting there talking all this shit. I initially thought that I was going to be fighting Julianna Pena for the vacant title. So when they called me and they said that Pena was still injured and it was going to be Mayra Buena Silva for the vacant title, I love a challenge. Everybody brings a different challenge to the table, and I'm obsessed with challenges. But I will admit, I was a little disappointed because I was really looking forward to fighting Julianna Pena.
Right. No, completely understandable. And just last question kind of on that fight. How is it going to Toronto? A little cold that time of year, but again, pretty cool city to win your first title in.
Toronto's really cool. I actually love Canada. I mean, I've been to Canada a couple times just in general, and then Tisha's fought out there. I was the backup fighter in Canada last June.
Yeah.
And so just being out there, usually the fans are awesome. I'll tell you what, this Toronto crowd, they were a tough one.
Right. Yeah.
So that was fun. But before we left, Colorado was actually colder. We were in negative temperatures as well. But being in Toronto, having consistent media obligations all day from the minute I woke up to the minute like 11 o'clock at night, and then having to go train and stuff. And of course, freezing temperatures, like, we didn't get outside much. So, I mean, that kind of, I don't know. I was trapped inside for a week straight.
Right. Yeah. You could have been anywhere because you're just in the hotel doing media. Right. I got it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, this is not great. And so one day I was like, we're going to breakfast. We're going to walk to breakfast. And myself and my entire team, we just froze our asses off. It was great.
Yeah, there you go. Kind of like Colorado a little bit, but a little bit colder in Toronto, as we just mentioned. So I think what everyone wants to know, when do you want to get back in there? Again, I know this fight happened just a few months ago. I know, again, you got all types of stuff going on outside the cage. But if you could pick, if the UFC came to you and said, when do you want to fight next? When do you want to fight next?
So I think for me, Tisha's making her comeback after 2 years off having the baby. She's fighting Mother's Day weekend, May 11th. it's her time to shine. I'm super excited for her to get back out there and to feel what it's like to go through a camp being a mom and to go through a fight. It's a completely different feeling, a different motivation. Fight week was totally different for me. So I'm just excited for her. It's impossible for us to go through a fight. It's not impossible, but it'd be really difficult for us to go through a fight camp, both being in camp and trying to have our daughter and raise her.
Yeah.
Right now I'm holding down the fort. I'm taking over the mama role. Tisha held down the fort while I was in camp. I moved to the guest bedroom to make sure I was getting proper recovery, and she was doing all the things. And so now it's my turn. I also, what was it? Mid camp, I would say, I ended up getting stem cell in my shoulder, and I didn't have the time to properly recover. So now I'm focusing on some injuries and properly doing recovery and different things. So I think for me, I want to be able to enjoy. Tisha's going to fight, and then 3 weeks later is the baby's first birthday. So I'm looking after the summer. I would like September, October timeframe.
Okay, well there you go. That makes sense. And I imagine, like, I don't know, when was the last time you had spoken to the UFC? Because I imagine Julianna Pena is next, or do you think it could be someone else?
So I actually spoke with UFC yesterday.
Okay.
We were just kind of talking about a time frame and stuff. For myself and my team, in the last conversation, I mean, we didn't really speak anything yesterday as far as opponent, but we did speak time frame. But the last conversation we spoke about opponent, it is Julianna Pena. Okay. But you never know with UFC. I mean, they're all about business and stuff. You did have Kayla Harrison, who just signed to the UFC. She's coming in with a huge hype train, a huge name. For the business aspect, that's really great. So you never know. They have athletes that come in and they try to do fast tracking. For me personally, I've been that athlete. I was never handed anything. I've had to work from the ground up, which I'm super proud of. I finally accomplished the ultimate goal. But being in that position and being overlooked or passed by on multiple occasions, or, it's just like, okay, this fight's going to be a number one contender fight. Nope. Okay. The next fight is, and there was always some shit happening. And so being in that position, there's a lot of women in this division who have been there for multiple years. They've been working super hard. They deserve the opportunity. I'm not opposed to fighting anybody. I'll fight anybody. I love the challenges, but I just think that other women deserve it before Kayla ever would. Mm-hmm. So right now, my team and I, we're focused on Julianna Pena, and then we'll see what happens after that.
Just looking at your style and Julianna's style, if that fight was to happen, how do you look at that fight from a sort of a matchup perspective?
I think it'd make for an exciting fight. I think both of us are warriors, and there's no quit. Julianna's really tough. A lot of people talk a lot of shit about her, and they're like, oh, she sucks as a fighter and this, that, or another. Whatever, she may suck, but she does not stop. Like, she can get knocked on her ass so many different times, and she's going to keep coming forward. She's tough. And I think, just having the storyline between us, being teammates on The Ultimate Fighter, being roommates, her getting under my freaking skin, just all these years, I think it'll play out for a really exciting fight. I think as much as people say, we have a ton of casual fans these days in this sport, and but as far as the true fans, I feel like they'll definitely be winning in that fight.
Well, we sort of talked earlier about, the trash talk leading into your last fight. I'm sure there's going to be trash talk here even more because Julianna obviously talks a lot. Would you prefer to just have a fight where there wasn't any of that and you could just focus on the fight? Or do you think this, like you said, the sport's changed, there's going to be more eyeballs. Do you welcome Julianna talking trash? Like, how do you sort of look at that aspect of it?
To each their own, talk all the shit that you want. At the end of the day, the same thing I said in my last press conference against Mayra, the fight's going to do the talking for itself. So, I mean, she could sit there and run her mouth. I wasn't raised that way. I do think about, I get the aspect of, as far as entertainment, building the hype, building just everything behind the fight, bringing more eyes to it all. But it's not me. Don't get me wrong. I could definitely talk shit if I need to, but I choose not to. And I think about the younger crowd, I think about my audience, and the kids are my biggest inspiration when it comes to it. So to sit here and run my mouth, I know I wouldn't want my godkids or my niece and nephews, my daughter, my little cousins, and, all the other kids who look up to me. Yeah, Julianna's going to definitely do a lot of shit talking. I can only imagine the things she's going to say. I look forward to the laughs behind it, but the fight's going to do the ultimate talking.
And do you think also fans will be on your side in this? Because it seems like some of the stuff that Julianna said has actually rubbed people the wrong way, going after Nunes and all this different stuff. Are you anticipating that a little bit if it happens?
I have no idea. Like I said, I mean, I've been the underdog my entire career. I feel like I've been the dark horse in women's MMA. But I'm still here. I'm doing everything I need to. For me, I'm conquering my goals. I'm changing my family's life. But I have seen stuff where it's just like, people are like, does she ever shut up? I have the same question. But at the end of the day, I mean, I don't pay attention to any of that. It would definitely, it would definitely be cool to have the fans and, in the arena, get the Rocky chant going again, all the different things. But who knows? I mean, there's a lot of people out there who absolutely love the shit talking, and yeah.
We'll see. You mentioned Kayla Harrison. What was your reaction to hearing that she had joined the UFC? I think to some of us it was a surprise, as PFL sort of, making like a new season and stuff, figured she'd be part of it.
Honestly, I thought she would sign to the UFC a lot sooner.
Okay.
So it was only a matter of time. I wasn't surprised by it. I was surprised that she was put on UFC 300, but then again, she has a name behind her. And they're constantly doing business and constantly trying to build things up. So, I mean, it wasn't a surprise for me.
Well, was it surprising that she's fighting it in your weight class? Because obviously the lowest she's fought, I think, is 145. So it's 2 weight classes down. And, obviously it's tough cutting a lot of weight like that.
Yeah, I mean, she's a very dense girl. Like, she is not small. I've seen some stuff where she said that she's done practice cuts, she can make the weight. But I think the biggest thing for me is, you may be able to make the weight, but how are you going to perform at it? So we will find out in a few weeks from now how she'll definitely perform at that. But yeah, to answer your question, I was surprised when they said 135. I mean, we don't really have much of a 145. They had the 145 division for Cyborg pretty much, and then Amanda became the double champion, so that's why they kept that division around. But you don't have an actual like active division there. Maybe that's something she could have started, but I guess we'll see how she performs at 135.
Does she beat Holly, do you think?
So if Holly, it'll be an interesting fight because it's the same thing that I fought with Ronda, extremely talented. She's great at judo and stuff, and she was going out there. And the big thing with Ronda is she played a mental warfare. Like, she beat people before even going into the octagon, and people did not keep that distance. Finally when Holly, I always said, if somebody keeps the distance and lets their hands go, it'll break Ronda's game plan. And sure enough, that's what Holly did. I feel like, Kayla, she had that same experience when it came to Pacheco on PFL, and she had a bad night. If Holly comes out and she is the fighter that came into the UFC, she'll beat Kayla Harrison. But if she fights her the way that she's been fighting her last few fights, it's not going to be a good night for Holly Holm at all. I mean, it's up to Holly really if she wants to keep that distance and let her striking go. I think she can dominate, but if she lets Kayla fall into her game plan, Kayla's going to win.
What do you think's more likely though?
Just seeing, the habits that Holly's had her last few fights, I think Kayla will probably win the fight.
Got some fun rapid fire questions because again, we can't just talk about fighting. We got to have some fun here. So just whatever comes to mind. There's no wrong answers here. It's just an opinion. Who's your favorite athlete outside of combat sports? Do you have one?
My favorite athlete. Honestly, I would probably say LeBron James, if anything. I've been so far out of any sports from being in MMA, but I grew up being a baller, and I'll always, at heart, be a baller. So okay. I'll say LeBron.
What's your favorite movie?
Love and Basketball.
What's your favorite actor or actress?
Sandra Bullock.
Someone else had that actually recently. Great choice, by the way. Loved her in Speed. She was great in Speed.
Love her, and I love The Proposal.
Yeah. Favorite TV show?
Favorite TV show? Oof. I don't know. I mean, I would probably say TV series. I really loved Queen of the South.
Okay. Favorite comedian?
Kevin Hart.
Favorite cheat meal?
Oof. That's a good question. Anything with carbs, because during camp, I have to go pretty strict. I go gluten-free. I am pretty much a low carb athlete, and then I don't do any dairy. So I miss that majority of the time. And I come from a huge Hispanic family, and I miss my mom's home cooked meals, those homemade tortillas and everything else.
Okay. Favorite travel destination?
Favorite travel destination? So far, I am truly in love with Peru. But other than that, I would probably say Florida, just because my dad and the rest of my family lives there.
Favorite animal?
Monkey.
What's your hidden talent? Something that you're good at that we don't know you're good at?
Hidden talent. I'm a really good artist.
Awesome. Okay. We'll, we'll
And
go
the
with
guitar.
that. We'll go with that. And last one, what's your biggest pet peeve?
Chomping and smacking your lips. I will lose my mind.
There we go. Got to make sure you don't have gum around you. That makes sense. Raquel, thanks so much for doing this. Excited to see what is next year. Like you said, September. Hopefully that all works out. If there's anyone you want to thank before we get out of here, any sponsors, any social media you want to mention, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, thanks for having me on. It was great talking with you. I just want to give a huge shout out to my true fans out there. You guys have been nothing but amazing all these years. Of course, my family, my team, my friends. And then, I mean, Tisha has a habit of stalking me and watching all my fights or watching all my interviews, even though we live together. But, I just want to give a shout out to her. I'm proud of her. I'm excited for her to make her comeback. And, we gotta break history here. Or we gotta make history here. So to have a double household of champions. Other than that, you can find me on Instagram at Raquel_Pennington, Twitter or X at Rocky P MMA. I love interacting with my fans, so I usually try to interact with you guys as much as I can.